Welcome back again to the Gobby Gaffer tutorial series, and today I'm going to try and impart some words of wisdom on tactics. Now, tactics, we could spend a whole week doing tactics because a lot of it is down to personal preference, a lot of it is down to the players that you have available to you. If you want to play a diamond system and you've got 6 wingers in your squad, then probably not the best way to go. When you first take a team over, so today we're going to use the Curzon Ashton one again that I've been using regularly in this series. So when you first take a team over, I think I showed you in one of the videos, so basically you're prompted very early on to choose a tactic, and your assistant manager and the system will say to you, right, okay, with the players that we've got available, we think this is the best system. So like I said, with this Curzon Ashton squad, it recommended to me wing play because we have wingers in the team. The squad's not massive, and obviously if we were carrying on with this save, we would need to bring some more players in to fit this tactic if this is what we were going to use. So essentially, the first thing to say is don't just have one tactic loaded. You need at least 2, preferably 3 tactics loaded. The reason for that is because the AI in the game, if you're playing with one tactic and one tactic alone, the AI in the game will, more often than not, will very quickly get used to that tactic. So you might go on a little bit of a winning run, but once the AI and the AI advising the teams that you're playing will advise them, he's playing his tactics, playing it all the time, this is how to beat it. So you need other tactics loaded. And what that does is, I mean, on a basic level, if you have 3 tactics loaded, even if you're only mostly playing with one tactic, you have still got 2 other tactics there. So it kind of confuses the AI a little bit, gives you a little bit of an edge. But what it also does is, within a game, you can change. Let's say at half time, you're creating nothing, it's 0-0, you want a goal, you might want to change to tactic number 2 or tactic number 3, and just to give you a little bit of an edge. Also, have a look at what the opposition are playing as well. If the opposition are playing a flat back 7, then you might want to alter your tactic to play against that. If they're playing with like a 4-2-3-1, you might want to match that. All these things have to be taken into consideration. And the thing about it is, like I said at the beginning, it's all personal preference, and there's no real, I can't say to you today, you must play this tactic. I mean, a lot of the kind of professional tutorial players on YouTube will kind of, they'll come up with a tactic. Oh, play this tactic. I played it with blah, 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 and we won the league by 20 points. Well, okay, fine. You can try that, and but it all depends on the players that you've got, the instructions. Believe me, this is another really involved and technical area. So there's lots of things that you can do. All I can do is just point you in the right direction, show you what the buttons do. But like I say, don't just have one tactic. So like I say, using the Curzon Ashton save that we've got going for these tutorials. So initially we came in, we asked the assistant manager, he said with the players that we've got, play wing play. Okay, makes sense. We've got Man out on this side. He's right-footed. He's a winger. Play him out there. A lot of this is self-explanatory, but there are a lot of tweaks that you can do within it. So we've got Will Hayhurst. He's left-footed. He's a winger, although he can play all down that side. So it makes sense, and I can see why they've suggested that. But so I'm telling you, right, have 2 or 3 tactics running at the same time. How do we do that? So if we click this plus button here and we create a new tactic, and now we get back to the screen that we had back in, was it tutorial 1, 2, or I can't remember now. But now we're back to what is being suggested to me. So wing play, we get a thumbs up for wing play. We've already set that one up. But they're also saying route 1 is a good tactic for the players that we've got. And they're also saying park the bus as a good tactic for the players that we've got. So let's say we're going to go route 1 as our second tactic. So we click that. And then we're going to choose a formation. So you can now see that we're getting a thumbs up against the 5-3-2 formation. And this is kind of a totally different formation to the wing play one. So basically we've got two strikers. We have got wingers on the pitch, but they're playing a lot more withdrawn. And we're not playing with wing backs, we're playing with full backs. So if we click confirm on that one, and now the system has dropped players in there that it thinks will fit into this tactic. So you can see here now, tactical style, route 1, mentality, balanced. We can go very defensive if we want, up to very attacking. Again, personal preference. A lot of these things you have to try out. I must say at this stage, if you watch a lot of the professional players playing the game, they will tell you at certain stages of the season, the diamond is not working as well this season, or wing play is not working as well, or corners at near post corners are not working as well this season. So a lot of this has to be taken into consideration, how the game is actually set up to play by Sports Interactive, and they will tweak that through the season. It keeps you on your toes. Maybe you start the season off and you may be playing a diamond, and then all of a sudden your team starts losing. Maybe they put a patch in. You have to keep an eye on all of these things. You know, keep an eye out for when the patches are coming out and make sure your team is still performing to the best of its ability. So you do have to keep an eye on all of that stuff. So we've set up a new tactic here. We've got two tactics running now. If we want to do a third, and I would always recommend having three, so we do the same thing again, plus create new tactic. And this time we're going to go for park the bus, because that's the third one that's recommended for us. Choose a formation, and they're recommended a 4-2-4 for this one. So we're going to go 4-2-4. I'm going to click confirm. And now this is a park the bus formation that they are. So now you can see mentality. Now we've gone defensive, parking the bus. Also in here, possession. So they're telling us that pass into space, hit early crosses, play for set pieces, be more disciplined, quite important. If you park in the bus, you don't really want to be expressive. Time wasting, they're recommended time wasting for the whole of the game. I never ever play with park the bus, even if I'm playing with a lowly team who have got part-time players. I never play. I find it very, very boring. It's not great to watch, but you get the point. So tempo slightly lower, passing directness. I would have thought maybe that would have been right over here. Passing directness, park the bus, just lump the ball. Every time you get the ball, just lump it. In transition, so we can click that. And it's telling us to regroup when possession's been lost. Slow the pace down. Take long kicks. Again, just what I've just been saying. We're lumping the ball in park the bus. Kind of makes sense. We've got two strikers up there. If they're big lads, 14 stone, 6'5", we want to be lumping the ball to them, don't we? And then they can be nodding it down. The midfielders can be picking up the scraps. Hopefully, you know, scoring a few goals. And in here, on out of possession, we've got a lower defensive line. I mean, that's the lowest you can have in the game. And a low block line of engagement. We've got get stuck in, drop off more, and trap outside. And prevent short goalkeeper distribution. So as you can see now, we set up three different tactics. Now, you may then, once you've set that tactic up, you may then have to, providing you've got squad depth, you might have to go in and then tweak. Because if you notice here now, McMahon has been put as a pressing forward. He can't play as a pressing forward. He's a winger. So just be careful of that. Although the assistant manager has said, right, these are the players I suggest. Not really. So you want two strikers up there. Hayhurst is not a striker. Have we got a striker on the bench? Yes, we have. We've got Craig Hobson. So you'd want to bring Craig Hobson in as a striker. Any other strikers? Yeah, George Waring. But we want McMahon on the wing. And, you've got to just keep tweaking it. Keep looking, tweaking. Because in a game, if you decide at half-time, right, we're winning 1-0, but the opposition are quite tough, you might want to automatically just click number 3 tactic and go park the bus. So you're basically going to play very defensively. You've got the 3 points as long as you don't let a goal in. So you can switch mid-game. You can switch any time of the game you want to do. Switch to number 3. If you concede a goal and you need to nick a goal, go back to number 1 again. Wing play or something a bit more attacking. Now this is setting these tactics up. As the season goes on, up here you'll see familiarity. That's as the players train in that system. That's their familiarity. The more they play that system, the more they'll get familiar with it, and the more your team will gel together and play better. The intensity is the intensity of that tactic on your players. So if that green bar is right across here and it's full, then be prepared to be resting players, rotating players an awful lot. You'll not be able to play those players in every single game in that tactic, in that position, because they will tire very, very quickly. But as you can see, in this park the bus one, the intensity is very, very low. So if you've got a small squad, if you've got players who've not got great stamina, etc., then obviously this would benefit them because it's a lower intensity tactic. So like I say, it's all personal preference. You might have a preference for playing with wingers. You might have a preference for playing a diamond. You might have a preference playing with a defensive midfield player. The only way really you're going to be able to tell whether that tactic is working is A, pick the right players. When you're signing players, sign them for that tactic that you want to use mainly. And B, just keep an eye on your player ratings. See if they're playing well in that position. Is there anybody else in the squad who could play that position a little bit better? Obviously, football, it's results motivated. So, if you're playing a formation and a tactic and players in that tactic and you lose 5 games on the trot, it's maybe time to start thinking about, okay then, should we play with a DM instead of an attacking midfielder? Should we play with, let's try tactic number 2 instead? I mean, one of the problems with football is you don't get that much time, do you? Because if you lose a few games on the trot, then morale starts to drop and you're likely to start losing more games. So you constantly need to be looking at the tactic, the system, the players, and juggling it as need be. So a little bit more in depth now. So let's go back to tactic number 1, which is wing play. So as it suggests, we've got 2 wingers on. They're going to run up the wings and hopefully stick a ball in the box for your striker to score. So if you just click on the player's shirt number, basically, you'll get this box comes up. And if you go to edit, this screen comes. So in here, this basically tells you what that player is going to do on the pitch and what your instructions to him are. Now, there's certain things that are fixed. So for a winger on attack, so it's role winger, duty attacking, for that, certain things are set in stone. So these things are set in stone. You can't alter them. Anything that's highlighted like this, like mark tighter, tackle harder, ease off tackles, mark specific players, you can change all of those. Shoot more often if you want him to shoot more often. So if we just go back to Mahon and just have a quick look at his stats. So, okay, he's a winger. You would naturally think he was good at crossing a ball, but his crossing is a 6. So that's not great, is it really? That doesn't mean to say he can't cross a ball, but he's not the best at it. So would we want to, if we just look at his work rate, his teamwork, flair, technique, composure, he's got good acceleration, pace is not too bad. Do we think maybe then that we might change his positioning on the pitch? If we go back into edit, let's, instead of having him as a winger on attack, where he's maybe not the greatest at crossing the ball, if we have him as an advanced playmaker on attack, now this circle here is changed. So now this green segment here, it's telling him to cut inside with the ball rather than maybe crossing it. So you can see here now, this is set, it's green and it's set cross less often. So you're asking him to cross the ball less often. So the things that we can change, we can ask him to get further forward. We can ask him to sit a bit narrower. Now, if you're playing with wing backs, you could ask him to sit narrower and have your wing back bombing on past him. Again, you try these things out, see if it works. Watch a game or two. See if that wing back is actually doing a job. He might be twice as good as Mahan at crossing the ball. Let's have Mahan sitting a bit narrower. Let's have him cutting inside with the ball. Maybe he's really good at shooting. That's perfect. It can come inside. Actually, in this setup now on attacking, he's actually set to shoot less often. If we go back up to his duty, if we change this to support, so we were on attack. If we change it to support, now maybe you would want to have him dribbling more or dribbling less. Maybe if he's coming and cutting inside, dribble more. Get that wing back coming up on the outside. So these are all things that you can change in the game. It doesn't mean to say that, okay, we're playing with a winger system. But one thing to bear in mind with this is that although this is a preset thing, wing play and in possession, in transition, out of possession, these things are set. You can alter them all. So you can actually then make this a customised wing play system where you actually tell the players to do slightly different things. So like I say, Mahan, not great at crossing. Is he that great as a winger? We've got a wing back here, Richards. Let's have a look at him. So his crossing's a 10. So he's got 4 more points in crossing than Mahan has as the winger. So maybe we would use that then. He's got 11 for pace. He's got 11 for acceleration. So stamina of 11. He can get up and down that wing. And you might, when he's 29. Okay, is that, can we go out and sign a new young right wing back who's got a crossing of 12, 13, who's got 13, 14 for pace acceleration? So all of these things have got to be borne in mind. And at the end of the day, it's all personal preference. It's how you want to play. Just watch the game. Watch him cutting inside. Watch the wing back going. If that wing back's not going outside and failing to cross, then maybe he's not the wing back for that system. If we take another for instance, so if we go to Matthews, a central defender, now he's a 12 for heading, he's an 8 for marking and a 13 for tackling. If we click onto his number and go into edit for his attributes, so basically he's a central defender on defend. Now this is more of a situation where you go into, if you wanted to do, let's say before the game kicks off, your assistant manager comes to you and says, we need to keep an eye on their centre forward because he's a bit lively and he scored 6 goals already this season. You could go into here and mark a specific player. So you could mark him, or you can mark a specific position, which is more like zonal marking. You can ask him to tackle harder. You can ask him to ease off tackles, mark tighter. Just be aware though, if you ask any of your players to tackle harder, so for instance, if we go into the out of possession button, in here, tackling, stay on feet or get stuck in. So there are a few areas where you can ask your players, as we've seen in the player traits, we can change it in there, we can change it in the out of possession button. If you ask your players to get stuck in, the chances are they're going to get a lot of yellow cards and possibly get a lot of red cards as well. I'm very wary about doing get stuck in my games. Don't mind doing mark tighter. So if we go back to the player, we can come into edit and we can ask him to mark tighter and possibly mark a specific player. I don't mind doing that, but be aware, because you have to take into consideration as well what his aggression level is. His aggression's 8, which is not too bad. I mean, one of my recent saves, I signed a player who was, I think it was Bolger for AFC Fylde, and his aggression level was something like 17. And his best position was as a ball-winning midfield player. So he had really good potential. I put him in the team, ball-winning midfield player. He got sent off in his first game. Just come flying in out of nowhere, took a player out completely. So although he's a great player, I looked at his stats and I thought, okay then, let's take him off, like get stuck in, marking tighter, all that. Let's make him a box-to-box midfield player where he can still do some tackling, but his main job is getting up and down. He can cover at the back, but he can get forward, and his stats were okay for that. So just be really careful with whether you're asking players to get stuck in, because it can result in a lot of yellow and red cards. And the yellow cards are as bad as the reds sometimes because they build up really quickly and then you lose a game. And Football Manager is notorious, let me tell you. Football Manager is notorious. So a player gets a red card and it's an automatic 1-match ban. You can guarantee that will get converted to a 3-match ban. More or less every single time it'll get converted to a 3-match ban. So just be careful, because if that's one of your best players, you're going to lose him for 3 games. And as I said previously in one of my earlier videos, okay, this is Curzon Ashton, but if you were managing Bayern Munich or PSG or Liverpool, you wouldn't play park the bus. You wouldn't play long ball tactics. You're going to play more like a tiki-taka, more of a technical tactic, because you're going to have the players that can play that kind of thing. It's no good having 4.5-star rated team and playing park the bus. What's the point in that? So again, it's another one of these things. You just have to tweak these things. Even as I come into Curzon Ashton here, I've not got the biggest of squads. I would be now looking, get my scouts out there, let's bring some players in. Do we want to play with wingers? Do we want to play with inverted wingers? Mahon, for instance, can play over the other side. So if we wanted to, he's right-footed, but we could put him on the other side. But because he's right-footed, we would make him an inverted winger on support or attack. And then obviously we would go into his instructions, and because he's an inverted winger now, on support, it automatically makes him cut inside with the ball. There are a few other things, we can hold position, roam from, all of these things can all be changed, but those are things to be tweaked as you go through the game and you watch the games and you see how players are playing. And a good indication of how players are playing is their overall average rating. So just keep an eye on that. If a player in a, let's say your box-to-box midfield player has got an overall average rating of 7.4, then he's doing a good job in that position. If your wing back is on a 6.2 and he's been on a 6.2, 6.3 for 6 games, he's either not very good or he can't play that position. So you need to alter his position, bring a new player in. You need to get your scouts out there looking for these players. And like I say, with Curzon Ashton, I have a very small squad. And I would need to sit down with this and spend, get a cup of coffee, spend some time looking at what I want to play and whether, for instance, Mahon, okay, he's down as a winger, but I don't think he's the best winger in the world. He is bobbing on a little bit. And would I want to be looking at more players who can be creative through the middle of the park rather than playing with those wingers? You can have your wing backs on attack, but play more through more of a diamond style with an attacking or advanced playmaker. Another little thing that happened to me as well with my AFC Files save, did notice that my striker, who is a target forward, that that's his best position, is a target forward. But I did notice that we were throwing balls forward for him, but he was forever offside. So I kind of went into his positioning, and instead of making him a target forward, I made him a pressing forward. And you can see immediately that pulls him back a little bit. So it tells him, just keep on the shoulder. Don't push too far forward. Target forward, he wants to be in there all the time. So little things like that you've just got to be aware of all the time, and just keep monitoring your tactic and your players, your player average ratings and all of that. It's all very important stuff. So once you've set up your 3 tactics, if we go to the route 1 tactic, for instance, now, don't just do that. Make sure all the players are comfortable in the positions that they want to play in. Make sure that you've gone into their instructions. Make sure you've got them doing everything that you want them to do. And once that is set up in there, then you can quickly change, even in a game. So after 20 minutes, you might be thinking, this isn't working. Or you might be 70 minutes into a game, you're winning 1-0, you're thinking, right, it's time to park the bus. You can quickly click number 3, park the bus, and you're in there. You've already sat with a cup of coffee, you've already spent time sorting all of these positions out. Your fullback here, what do you want him to do? Do you want him to tackle harder, mark tighter? You wouldn't want him to get further forward. You'd want him to maybe sit narrower, stay wider, but you'd certainly want him to hold his position, wouldn't you, in a park the bus situation. But all of that's already been set up. And just quickly while I'm thinking about it, I should have done this right at the beginning, I suppose, but so if we go into the staff and go to responsibilities button and then come down to tactics, make sure that you're controlling the areas of the game that you want to control. And like match, for instance, so I'm handling the touchline instructions, leading the team talks. I don't tend to watch or lead friendly matches, so that one there, I would delegate that. I would give the assistant manager that, because your friendly matches can give you a lot of insight into how players are playing, but you've got to be aware that more often than not, that's early season, and you don't really gain that much kind of information out of it. So I generally get my assistant manager, because otherwise you have to sit through a 90-minute game playing Michaelmas United or something, which is quite boring, and it's not really giving you that much information. So I normally give that to my assistant manager to do, and then by default then you don't have to watch the game, you just get the scoreline. And I think I've shown you the squad plan before. If we just have a quick look at that, so basically the squad planner will tell you who your best players are in a position. So goalkeeper, we've got Chris Renshaw as a 4-star. Our central defender on the right hand side is Adam Barton, and it lists them all for you there. So obviously at Curzon Ashton we've not got a huge amount of players. This can get quite complex when you get bigger squads. They've all been, well actually they haven't. So if we go to the winger on the right hand side, it's saying Tom Pearce is the second best. Well actually he's not. So if we click that little chevron, it knocks him up to first place. So now we've got Tom Pearce is the first or the best winger that we've got. So I don't want to waffle on too much today, because I know I'm pretty renowned for waffling. So the last thing I want to say is, don't forget your set piece takers. So along this top bar here, set pieces, if you click on that and then you get this page opens. Now it's telling you here, corners, left and right side. If you just want to do a quick pick, just click that button and it will put the players in there who it thinks are best at corners. If we click on Jordan Richards, for instance, So I think we did have a look at Jordan Richards before, and he's a 10 for crossing, so not too bad. So basically, it lists there the players that it thinks are good at corners. Free kicks here, we can do a quick pick again, but be aware there's another button here that you can click. So that's direct free kicks. Direct with a small chance of a shot, we can do another selection. Again, indirect wide, we can do another selection. All of these players can be tweaked. So this little minus, we can take that player out and we can bring, because it gives you a list here. So all the players, preferred foot, corners, free kicks, and throw length. So you can see here that Will Hayhurst for corners, left-footed, he's an 11 for free kicks. Sam Walker is a 12 for corners and 12 for free kicks. All of these things have to be borne in mind. So you can move these players around, you can take them out, you can fiddle around with them. We've done indirect wide, we need to do indirect deep, quick pick. Again, we can change those if we want. Quick pick on the throw-ins. And then, again, don't forget to go into corners. So in this screen now, where it's showing you our defensive positioning for a corner. So this is our defensive positioning. So it's fairly self-explanatory. If you wanted, let's say, Di Maio, right, let's try and find, so who have they got here? It tells you over this side here, his height and his heading ability. So he's only 5'10", he's 6'2", with a heading of 12. He's right in the middle. Devon Matthews, right in the middle, 6'2", 12 heading. Do you want him there? Have you noticed that they're taking near post corners? You might want to switch him round and move him there. If they're taking far post corners, you might want to move him over there. He's obviously very good at heading, and his height is an attribute. So again, move those around. Do you want to have a player who is going to be available for the out ball? So when that ball is cleared, by default everybody's in the penalty area. But do you want to play on a breakaway system? Move your players. Your quick players who can pick that ball up and counter attack. So again, move your players. So that's on the left. That's on the right hand side. Left hand side again. You can see they're all clumped in there. If we wanted to start moving players around, we can do that. Make sure you do all of this because it's really important. It will help your gameplay. Because in a game, if you just get one breakaway and score a goal, you only need to score one goal and don't concede any. You've got the 3 points. So set pieces, particularly corners, can be really invaluable. So that's on the defensive side. If we go to the attacking side now you can see by default now we have actually got defenders in here to try and stop the breakaway. We've got outfield players here. So if we select the corner taker, come to this box here, player instructions. At the moment it's on mixed. So you might want to do mixed corners through the game. But you can actually do short, near post, far post, edge of the area, 6-yard box. Let's say you wanted to do near post corners from that side. So he's going to whip the ball into the near post. So you want the big lad, don't you, on that near post. So again, Devon Matthews, we'd want him there. So that near post corner is going to be whipped in, and we've got our Devon Matthews, our 6'2", 12 for heading. He's on it there. You might want to put somebody on the keeper. So if you take this player off the goal line, you move him into that position. It's got MK there, so he's basically marking the keeper. So you can see how all of that works. That's the left-hand side. If we've got the right-hand side, on this side, we might want to take far post corners. So again, come to here, far post corners. Now, corners, with Football Manager, it's a little bit of a thing. Again, if you watch the professional players playing, they will very regularly say, near post corners, still working. And, they will have all of these routines set up. So the big 6'5" striker or central defender will always be in this position here. So this is Craig Hobson. He's 6'2", and he's got a heading of 9. Maybe we wouldn't want him there. Maybe we'd want to bring in that Devon Matthews again. Put Devon Matthews there on that far post. Now we're swinging a ball to him again. I mean, obviously, monitor all of this, because at the end of the day, if he's not scoring, then maybe his figures are a little bit skewed. Maybe he's not that good at heading. But, you know, again, make sure you've got all of this set up. Once this is set up, it should stay like that for the whole of the tactic and the whole of the game. But just keep coming back in here and just checking it, because the AI sometimes will put this back to default just out of the blue. So come back and keep checking it. But this area is a really important area. Likewise, again, free kicks, you can see it's the same thing again. All of this can be set up for defending and attacking. Throw-ins, that can all be set up. And penalties, obviously you want, you know, your decent penalty takers. So Tom Pears, they've already done this. The AI's done it for us, and Tom Pears is set to be our, provided he's on the pitch, he's a 13 for penalty taking, so he is number 1 for taking penalties. Josh Hancock is number 2 because he's got a 12. It's fairly self-explanatory, but please come in here and do your set pieces, because within that tactic, and that will only work for that tactic. Let's say we go back to our wing-back tactic. If we go into set pieces now and we do corners, you can see now it's been reset. So each tactic has to have the set pieces set up for it. Once it's done, it should stay like that and you should be good to go. But each tactic, don't just do it once and think, right, I've sorted it. Each tactic has to have this set up. And believe me, this is really important, because you can score some lovely goals from corners and important goals as well, and it is a big thing in Football Manager. It has been for quite a few years now, so keep a real eye on this. Anyway, like I say, we could spend a week doing tactics. You have to use a lot of common sense. You have to keep an eye on whether that tactic is working, whether the players are working within that tactic. Keep an eye on their average rating, have a look at them in game, see whether they're doing the job. You know, if your wing back is running up the wing and his cross is getting blocked every time, maybe he's not the player to do that for you. Maybe you want to have him cutting in a little bit more, your wingers cutting in. Keep an eye on all of that stuff. There's no one size fits all, so it's something that you have to have a real play with yourself. And all I can do is just give you, you know, like the set pieces, make sure they're set up. All little hints and tips along the way, but the actual basics of setting a tactic up. Set your tactic up, but then tweak it. Don't be frightened to go in and tweak it. If your winger's not working particularly well and his crossing's not great, like I said, maybe make him an advanced playmaker and cutting in, an inverted winger. Try that. You have to try all of these things until you get it ticking over the way that you want it. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there for today. I hope that's been useful. And I have got more of these tutorials planned. So, keep the faith. Stick with it. We'll see you very, very soon. Come back, Gobby Gaffer, words of wisdom and all that.